Hello, hello. Let's do a tag. I was tagged by Michael K Vaughan to do the Around the World in 8 T's tag, created by Book Time with Elvis. Both excellent, excellent channels. Both with excellent, excellent. Well, one of them has Elvis has a dog. Michael has some kind of creature that we're not really sure of its provenance, but you should definitely check out both channels to enjoy the dogs and the booktubers themselves. So yes, let's get on to this Around the World in 8 T's tag. Question number one, theater. Do you read plays? If so, tell us about one of your favorites. I was going to say, I don't really read plays except for Shake Tube or Shaketober, whatever the heck it's going to be called this year, where in September I read the plays of Shakespeare. And usually the month beforehand, I'll read plays of Shakespeare's contemporaries. If it was Shakespeare, it's probably something like Winter's Tale is definitely kind of one of my favorites. A lot of times, actually, how I experience plays nowadays, of course, is how most people experience stuff is they get turned into movies. I watched Ma Rainey's Black Bottom by August Wilson, which I really enjoyed. It was interesting play. Felt like it had some kind of structural difficulties, but I enjoyed that. So yeah, those are. I guess Winter's Tale is like the favorite because I'm fairly blinkered when it comes to theater, and it'd be one of those things of post-COVID, taking opportunities to actually see plays put on. I live in Victoria, BC, so I have chances to actually maybe go and see a play. That would be, it's a thing. It's my experiences of going watching, even like, kind of like, we have our kind of we have our fringe festival here where you just get like little kind of, they have a chair and that's about it. They have actors with passion, from a lot of them from the theater section of our university. It's like, it's always really a thrill to actually see stuff performed in front of you. Number two, sadly, we can't travel these days, but do you have a favorite travel writer or travel book to take you away on armchair adventures? I think I've got two that come to mind. One is Dervla Murphy, the Irish travel writer. I think one of my favorites of hers was, I haven't read it for a while, is When the Indus Was Young, where she and her infant just young child, I can't remember how young now, traveled into it's the Himalayas, in the Indus Gorge, somewhere like kind of the back half of Pakistan in like 1975, and spent the winter there. Dervla Murphy is very much an on the ground kind of travel writer, someone who really does talk to the people, interacts. A lot of times is depending on their support to do stuff. I think there was a bit of controversy about that book because one of her friends, the people that she made friends with in that book, was also a warlord. So, there's complications there. She doesn't give you maybe the grander context of like another author that I'll mention here, but you do definitely get kind of a day-to-day, really kind of, wow, you're actually there. And Dervla Murphy is a good traveler. I myself am somebody who's like, I'm shy, talking to other people. It's like, I don't get the full experience. And I feel like, with Dervla Murphy, this is somebody who actually, interacts, talks to people, gets to know them, has real relationships with them, which is something that I'm not really, I'm not really great at that. So I get that from Dervla Murphy. The other one is Jonathan Raban. And probably my favorite of his is Coasting, which is actually him going around the Great Britain, sailing around Great Britain. And this is much more of an introspective book. He's got his own kind of life problems that he discusses in this book, as he's also going around the coast and kind of giving you a kind of a grander history of that coast, and also him kind of figuring out kind of the mechanics of sailing. He is definitely he is like an elegant writer, and also somebody who will give you kind of all the history in a very kind of well-told way, a very subtle, elegant, nuanced way. So yeah, those are my two, Dervla Murphy and Jonathan Raban. what is the book that took you the longest time to read, and why was that? Um, for me, the longest that I read that I absolutely enjoyed is it's over there somewhere, is my is reading Proust in Search of Lost Time. It's 7 volumes, so yes, of course, it's going to take you a long time there. It also took me extra long. It probably took me like 2 years to read because I found it so dense and so kind of intricate and involving that, and also it kind of lent itself to being broken up. Like I could read a section and I could comfortably go away, decompress, read a couple of other novels, and then come back and read the next section, and then come back, and just that was my pattern with that book. I didn't go full force through. I think if I'd gone full force through, I would have exhausted myself. I'm just not that, don't have those muscles as a reader, or at least I didn't at that point. I probably don't now. God, at the moment I don't. I've got COVID puppy brain at the moment and other brains. So yeah, that would be the longest that I most enjoyed. This did put me in mind of the thing. I think it was talked about with movies that a long movie, a good movie can never be long enough, and a short movie can never be short enough. And I think the same thing goes with books. That I looked at, like, my most hated books. Those were the slogs. Those were the books that, like, this took me forever, and sometimes I didn't even make it through it. Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close. Go Girls of the Apocalypse. Trader's Blade. The Trader's Blade was engaging because I could just know that, so that wouldn't go in that one. But yeah, there's just books that I did not get along with, and that I dragged myself through for far too long, and sometimes I gave up, sometimes I held on and I read to the end. Those are the kind of books that take actually forever. Proust, 2 years, went by like a dream. Number 4, traditional fairy tales or nursery rhymes. What are some of your favorites, and some that you would not think suitable for kids today? I don't know. I'm not a great nursery rhyme, not nursery, fairy tale reader. Nursery rhymes are just nursery rhymes are stuff that are used in horror movies where spooky kids go, tick tock, the clock struck, whatever. You're all gonna die. That's nursery rhymes for me in a modern context. You ever hear a nursery rhyme? It's like, back away quickly, unless you've got a little kid there and I don't know, you're having fun. But then the kid's eyes start glowing red and you're like, oh my God, I am in the horror story. Yeah, for me, for fairy tales, I think I really like really transformed stuff. Angela Carter comes to mind for this as somebody who used a kind of a fairy tale feel and format and history in a lot of her stories and a lot of her tales, mixed with kind of dream logic and just bizarre. And highly sexualized. I think this is a lot of the fairy tales and nursery rhymes are ways of us kind of processing, a lot of the real primal, dark stuff that as a child you have to deal with, and then as an adult you deal with in different ways. Also comes to mind in this is 1001 Nights, or the Arabian Nights, which is actually something I have read, and I have multiple copies way back there. Definitely a lot of unsuitable stuff for children in those. I think of the Richard Francis Burton, that's the explorer and translator, not the actor, who translated it. I have a very kind of abridged version of that, but a lot of stuff that's unsuitable for children. But a lot of the stuff about fairy tales is that they are super dark. Maybe weren't originally actually even meant for children, or maybe they were meant for children back when children, it was a lot more, it wasn't this as sheltered for children, and whether that was a good thing or not, I prefer not to be brutalized or be working in factories or dying of dysentery. Okay, we'll leave it there. Tough world out there. Tasty, glorious food. What are some of your favorite books about food? One of my books that I really enjoyed just recently is a book called Butter, Honey, Pig Bread by Francesca Ekwesi, which is Canadian author, Canadian we'll go with Canadian author. She's on Canada Reads, so we'll claim her. With two sisters and a mother, and one of the sisters is a chef and is very much concerned with food. And there's a lot of talk of the various meals and that thing. And actually, I was thinking about that book because that book actually has kind of a rather healing resolution. And I kind of struggled, like, well, is this real? Is this wishful thinking or not? But I think the thing that actually sells it for me is the presence of food in this book. That food somehow makes it more believable that there's a happy ending of a sorts. There's a healing. That through food there can be of sharing a meal, that there can be a kind of a healing, a kind of forgiveness. So it's really important in that book. So it's a really good use of food. So yeah, that's butter, honey, pig bread. Yeah, that would be it. Terrible. This is the next prompt, number 6. Who is a truly terrible, nasty, but memorable character that stands out for you? I'm just going to go with recent ones because my brain just can't cast back. The Franchise Affair by Josephine Tey has a young teenage girl, Betty Kane, as sort of a central villain in that book, or at least very much the protagonists view her as a villain. And you'd have to read the book to find out if they're justified in that. But I thought that was an interesting book because of who was chosen as the villain in that book, that Josephine Tey has this particular character as the villain is perhaps as revealing about Josephine Tey, perhaps about the society, about how they view a young girl who is not staying within bounds as it was, and how that is punished. How that is vilified. So it's terrible. She's a terrible character, but it's interesting that she's chosen to be terrible. Yeah. So that would be my choice there. I'll just leave it there for that one. Number 7, truth. The truth is often stranger than fiction, they say. Give us some examples from this in your extensive reading. I don't have an extensive reading in nonfiction. I'll probably go with you should check out Mary Roach, who has done various books on death, on space travel. Her one on space travel, which of course I'll just call it the space book, which I can't remember. Did a really good job of showing exactly how insanely difficult it is for a human being to exist away from the little film of our little ecosystem. If you compare it to exactly how gigantic this universe is, we live in a tiny little film of a fragile bubble that covers this hunk of rock, and it's like you take us out of that and we are going to die pretty goddamn quickly. We're definitely not going to survive and thrive. Her going through just all the insanely difficult problems about that definitely gives pause to somebody who's totally into science fiction. Maybe I even lean more towards science fiction fantasy, Star Trek or Star Wars, and it's more fantasy. And I mean, you look at even a book like Star Trek, which has a little bit more of a thing of we're doing science fiction versus just guys with swords fighting. Not to dismiss that is also awful lot of fun, but it's just the realities of radiation's going to kill you, gravitational stuff is going to kill you. There's so many things that would kill us if we left this little film and of ecosystem, which is also just a good argument for why we should desperately try and preserve this little ecosystem and not poison it and kill all of ourselves. So yeah, Mary Roach. I will, maybe somewhere around here, I will have said what the actual book was for the space book, and her other many books, which are also funny. She is somebody who, sometimes she leans a little too hard into the funny, but a lot of the times it's yes, a little bit of sugar makes all this information, all the kind of cool, interesting factoids go down. So yeah. And number 8, make up an 8th prompt directed at those you wish to tag. Please stick to the theme of tea. For this, I'm going to pick Trollop. And no, I'm not going to ask some horrible question like, what's your favorite Trollope book? Because I've read a fair number of Trollope now, and I hate questions like that. But Trollope was a very prolific author. He wrote a ton of books, a ton of short stories. He cranked out a lot of stuff. I would argue that he kept it at a very kind of high quality. Who is your what is your most favorite Trollopian author? The one that's been very prolific, but also kept things at kind of a high level of quality. So yes, that's my question to the people I tag. Who do I tag? I have no idea. It'll be down below. So check. Maybe you're down there. You know it's not Michael K Vaughan. He's already done this tag. You know it's not Book Time with Elvis. He created this tag, and thanks to both of them. And yes, that's around the world in 80 tags. More videos later.